welcome. Enough about us and our piddly little opinions. Time to ask a member of the Horror Host Hall of Fame about his top 5 midnight movies.
These are the episodes from Chiller Theater on Fritz the Nite Owl that got the best fan reaction on his long run on TV in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, on Channel 10. So we are very excited. Welcome. This is the Fright Club podcast.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf. We're from madwolf.com. And really quickly, before we get into everything we're going to talk about this week, thank you for all the feedback. We had a lot of fun last week with the That's So Gay edition of Fright Club.
That's right. Thanks to senior gay correspondent John Tice for joining us. The feedback,
he was a hit.
That's right. Everybody loved him. As well, you should. And we got a couple of complaints movies we didn't include. Corey Metcalf was sad not to see Scream on there. And also Psycho was one that people were requesting. And, of course, Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about the general, homoerotic quality of a lot of the vampire movies, but that's a good one. I mean, Interview with a Vampire,
yes.
Yes.
That's pretty gay.
And also, we've talked about this a little bit. We want to officially solicit your votes, your thoughts for your most hard-to-watch scene in any movie ever. We're going to call it our Notorious Show in about 2 weeks, right? We got that penciled in for 2 weeks. So let us know. Always at Twitter is good, at MaddWolf. That's MaddWolf. Let us know your most notorious, hard-to-watch, gotta-turn away from the screen scene in any movie, and we will count those down. So that's going to be fun. All right, let's get to this week. We are so excited and happy to have a guest so famous and legendary and honored, we don't know what he's doing here.
Yeah, we want to thank Fritz Perrenboon, Fritz the Nite Owl, for joining us, as well as Mike McGraner, the writer-producer who works with him in their current live event and online program. Fritz has won 5 Emmys for his TV show, and the
6.
two of them... Excuse me. Fritz has won 6 Emmys, and the 2 of them are nominated for 2 new Emmys. They are both there. So congratulations to both of you for that.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you, Fritz, for introducing me to Satan's cheerleaders. I will be forever indebted.
Oh, thank you. I try to do the best to make made the show an educational event.
It always was. So these are, just to be clear, these are your 5 favorite from your current incarnation of the show, right?
Correct. Yeah, the show that started in 2010.
So these brought a bunch of requests, fan reaction. Is that how you describe it?
Plus, the number of people in the theater themselves that actually paid to get in to see them. That's always a good indicator if they're ready to unzip their wallet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, we're trying to bring back sort of the feel of what it was like to watch commercial television back in the 70s and 80s and 60s when, say, for example, Columbus had 3 networks, well, actually 4 network stations. There was CBS, NBC, ABC, Dumont, and then PBS came later, and then Channel 28 came after that. But for a while, there was just 4. And so what we tried to do was, in those days, the late night movie was called Armchair Theater, and it ran 7 nights a week. And 2 nights it was unhosted, and they decided somewhere in there before I came there to make the Friday night a double chiller movie because the little 5th and 6th graders could stay up late on Friday night and watch a movie. And our boss, the program director, John Haldy, was a movie junkie, and he had a phenomenal budget to buy the best packages. So we had all the MGM musicals, Betty Grable, John Wayne westerns, Paul Newman, Meryl Streep, Jack Nicholson.
Elvis, Godzilla.
Elvis and Godzilla. You better believe it. Frankie and Annette, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, individually and separately. He just had everything on there except that Friday was always a double chiller movie. And it was unhosted for, I don't know how many years before I started doing it as a character live host on the show.
And that was in 74, right?
That was in 74, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny. We were talking before we started recording. You said the 2 most requested performers on that show were Elvis and Godzilla.
Godzilla.
They should always be paired up, really, in my book.
Well, it's sort of a thing that, we get letter requests, and we get letters from like 5th and 6-year-olds, and they'd be in an envelope, and I mean to say, they would be folded up 83 times. And so there's this little block of paper in this envelope, and you open it up, and it's 8 sheets of every horror movie ever made to that point. So I thank, Charlie, for writing in, and we'll try to get some of these for you. And,
great stuff, legendary stuff. So we're now in the current incarnation, and speaking of that, what's your latest projects? What do you got coming up here soon?
So we're about to start our new season. The big thing for this current version in 2010 is that this started as a documentary on Fritz in 2008. He was my childhood hero as a kid. I grew up watching him, and then just wasn't sure. And when Andy, man, from CD101 was still with us, Andy was a good friend of mine and told me that Fritz lived in his neighborhood, introduced us, and we sort of started this documentary on Fritz's life. And then in 2010, his jazz show ended, and so we just decided kind of to try Nite Owl Theatre on the internet, as keeping it the same feel as Channel 10's show, mostly horror films because that was the most popular night. And Joe Bob Briggs, a friend of ours and movie host himself, kind of was telling me the most popular public domain films, and so he said, "We'll start with Night of the Living Dead because everybody that's going to be your popular one." And we kind of made this list of 12 films and formed a season 1 sort of. And right before our launch, Grandview Theater, Dave and Jennifer over there got wind of it, said, "Would you like to do it in a movie theater?" And at that point, it was sort of not knowing how it was going to play, because you're in your living room watching it growing up. In the theater, you're much wider audience, less intimate. And we gave it a go, and it sold out. And it went.
The old one used to have, I was on camera 3 times, at the beginning, in the middle, and the end. But in between those on-camera times, there were 4 voiceover commentaries on the movie. And for people that are young and not familiar with, every city had its movie hosts and their own local personalities, which is pretty much gone now. But in the old days, a movie host would introduce the movie would run, host would come back, blah, 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 then commercials, then more movie, then the host, blah, 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 more commercials, the host, all the way through. I mention that because a lot of people say, "Well, why do you interrupt the movie?" And I say, well, back in 74, the commercial stations had to run commercials and break up the movie. It's not like Turner Classic, where Robert Osborne comes on at the beginning and the movie runs all the way through, and then he fills in at the end. So we wanted to make it as much like watching television when you had to get out of your seat and walk to the set and turn the knob.
The horror of it all.
Or adjust the rabbit ears, or if you really lived out in the hinterlands, climb up on the roof and turn the antenna. We even go to the point of, we have young kids will ask, "Well, why at the end of your credits, when you do your last segment and your credits, your local credits roll, why do you play the Star-Spangled Banner? That's such a nice patriotic touch." And then we have to explain to them that in the old days, when the movie was over, or your last program, Johnny Carson, was over, the station would sign off with the Star-Spangled Banner, and then it was static till 6 in the morning.
Yeah, it's not like we're saying, "America." This is a shout out to 80s late night closure. So basically, the first couple seasons were public domain horror films. For our second year, we made the transition to Studio 35, and that's when the series really took off. And that was packing that theater, 241 people every month. And we got through that first year at 35, realized that if we tried an experiment, which was a friend of ours had written and directed a horror film called Trick or Treat, and that was a success, and based off of that, we started bigger movies. At this point, not so much on the internet, just due to rights. On the internet, it was still the public domain films, and now it's theatrical only pretty much, and we're going into our 5th year, and we're opening with Jurassic Park as the film this June 27th at Gateway Film Center.
All right.
I should mention that one of the differences is that we found out very, very quickly that the voiceover portions of the show didn't play well in the theater when we did them. So we pretty quickly went to where I was seen on all breaks. But the voiceover things were nice if you were there watching with your boyfriend or your big brother, your little sister, and it's just you and your companion and me in the living room. But in the big theater, the voiceover things were it was
just
like
a graphic.
It was a graphic of a Nite Owl cartoon and some nice jazz music and my commentary on the movie. But as I say, at home it worked great because they had the feeling like in radio, hey, you're there with me, watching this with me. Whereas in the movie theater, that just didn't come across. So we pretty quickly went to where I'm on scene on all of the commercial breaks.
All right. So, yeah, just adjusting on the fly.
Yeah.
And the further we go along, it's sort of our effects have gotten better, and it's so neat. Like the stuff we're doing now is really, really cool. Like Fritz is actually able to interact with dialogue from the movie during his break, where like he could be serving Jack Nicholson a drink in The Shining and literally be Lloyd, the bartender. And
we should mention, though, that this is not like Mystery Science Theater in that we never interrupt the movie while it's running.
Right.
The breaks stand by themselves. As I said, there's no commentary of mine during the film like Mystery Science Theater. And I think we were, 10 years ahead of them? Thereabouts.
Yeah. And the big thing about that, too, is the fact that you can come see the film you want to see, whether you know who Fritz is or not, or you can come see Fritz as a fan of Fritz and still see a great film. And so it's sort of, that's how we've been able to kind of grab a younger audience and grow with that.
And we should mention that the movies that we're running, since we're using the newer movies, the older ones we used to be able to put on DVD and literally sell the DVD at the theater, all of our public domains, and we had like 2 years worth of
first
them.
2 seasons, yeah.
But the newer movies, where the theater or we have to pay the rental, we are not allowed to put those for sale on DVD.
So it makes it exclusive and great, because it's sort of but
our
you got to come out and join it.
Our cash register doesn't ring. I like the sound of money.
That's why we have T-shirts, posters, and all kinds of goodies at fritzlives.com.
Nice. Shameless plug. Ring the bell.
Absolutely.
No, that's fine. fritzlives.com. Check it out.
2 nice T-shirts. I designed one of them, and Rome Maynard designed the other. So,
and some great posters. I got a gift today of the Lost Boys episode poster, and I'm super geeked about it. So thanks for that.
And we will have a brand new shirt premiering for our new season with a photograph by Chris Casella of Fritz, and it's really awesome.
All right. And that is the 27th, right, at Gateway?
Yep. The shirt will premiere the 26th at the Ohio Theater for the Capit Summer Movie Series night with Fritz.
Perfect.
And we should mention that it's Matt Harris, a local artist, who does all of the posters for us.
Very nice. All right.
Well, let's jump into the list with the first of the films on the list, the original 1960 version of Little Shop of Horrors.
Is this Dr. Farb's office? I see it is. I have 3 or 4 abscesses, a touch of pyorrhea, 9 or 10 cavities. I lost my pivot tooth, and I'm in terrible pain.
Well, I can't help you today.
Oh, that's all right. I'll just wait outside.
Well, that was always one of my favorites, because it was one of the rare films where you combined humor, jazz, and horror all in the same thing, and they were able to successfully pull it off. And then you read the story behind Little Shop of Horrors as to how they did it in a week. And it's like one of the earliest Jack Nicholson movies, his 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, that was him in the clip, the dentist, the famous dentist scene.
Right.
Yeah. He's the guy that likes the pain and leave the famous Nicholson shark smile is quite toothless.
It's a great scene as he's leaving. He turns around at the last second and faces the camera, and he's missing all the teeth. Yeah, it's a hilarious scene, and it is Roger Corman, I think, at his best. I mean, the thing that he did, I think, the best was to make the most efficient use of every single thing available to him, and piece together a surprisingly coherent, interesting, fun movie that cost like Ed Wood nothing, like so little money to make. And of all of the ones that he made, I think this has got to be sort of the shiniest gem of the whole lot.
I have to agree with you there. And as I say, humor and horror rarely, unless it was like an Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein or Frankenstein, or ever since I saw Young Frankenstein, I can't say Frankenstein. But and again, that's one of my all-time favorite places where horror and comedy mix so well, as well as the one we haven't shown it yet. What was the one where George Hamilton played the modern vampire?
Was that Love at First Bite?
Love at First Bite, yeah.
You showed that on Nite Owl.
Yeah.
The original Nite Owl, and I've just come across, there's also a series called Nite Owl Theatre, the Legacy series, that premieres every Saturday night online, and it's a half hour's worth of restored footage from the original Channel 10 show that survived.
Sort of like
that we
Fritz-
found in Fritz's garage. 37 hours of it. And I've been digitizing it. And
3/4-inch tape, which is like when radio was powered by steam.
And I found in recent episodes we have Fritz hosting Love at First Bite. So
no, but as I say, I like the humor and the horror mixed quite well.
And of course, years later,
the first Little
it
Shop
became the musical on stage, and then the musical movie,
which we've done in our last season. We just premiered it last September. We had the new Little Shop of Horrors. And we did a special version where we had both endings. We had the original dark ending, and the if you made it through that and watched the end of that, Fritz comes back on and brought us the happy
Nice.
ending. So,
Very nice.
We cover all bases.
that's right.
So that's number 5, the original Little Shop from 1960. And moving on to number 4, you just quickly mentioned this a few minutes ago, but we'll get more into it. From 2007, it is Trick or Treat.
Look at me. It's not a trick. It's real.
Tonight it's about respecting the customs, not breaking them.
Trick or Treat was written and directed by Columbus-born, grew up in Bexley, Michael Dougherty, who most of you know for writing Superman Returns and X-Men 2. And now he's also written X-Men Apocalypse, which is coming out, and he has a new horror movie called Krampus coming out this December.
Krampus. See?
So
this
Every time. He just I wrote nothing. He just shouts Krampus and points at me every time.
Because I brought up, how long
Christmas
ago?
demon.
I brought up Krampus, and you said, that's not such a thing. That's not a real thing. I said, yes, it is. It's the Christmas demon. It's Krampus.
Yeah.
So you just said a buzzword for us.
And
so
once
thank you.
Michael's done with Krampus, he's actually making Trick or Treat too.
Nice.
So there's that. But so Michael grew up watching Fritz, and I met Michael in L.A. in about 2004, right before he wrote Superman. It was like right around that time where they just locked that deal, and just we kind of discovered that we're both Fritz fans, which is awesome. And when years later, when I started working with Fritz, I got a hold of Michael again and said we'd like to give Trick or Treat the Nite Owl treatment, and he was excited about it. So and
it was really an unusual thing for them to do, to allow permission for me to do something like that.
Well, and one of the cool things about this movie, I've certainly noticed just in talking to horror fans, that it's really well regarded by a lot of people, and it's really easy to tell when watching it that he was a fan of the old time, because you have a real homage type of feel to the whole movie.
Very a lot of creep show type feelings, and oh man, there's so many references in there. One of the things Michael told me about Trick or Treat and Fritz, and the connection with that, is when he was making Trick or Treat, there's a scene where Brian Cox is flipping through channels while he's having a drink with his dog, and one of the channels that he flips through real quick was supposed to be Fritz.
Oh.
And he didn't know how to contact him or get a hold of him or anything. I mean, this was literally, so this was 2006, but it's before I started working with Fritz, before the show came back. And I remember Michael telling me that on the phone, and I was just like, "Oh my God, you have no idea!" Like,
think of how I felt.
yeah,
We should mention, though, that Michael's kind of an inspiration in the sense that he had just graduated or had spent a little time from the time he finished schooling to the time when all of a sudden he was writing professional grade A Hollywood movies.
He graduated from DeSales, and he went to NYU for animation, and that's where he made the Season's Greetings short in 1996, which is the character of Sam from Trick or Treat in a little animated short. And then from there, Brian he got an option writing a script, Urban Legends Bloody Mary, which went straight to DVD, and Bryan Singer had read it and liked the script and basically met with him. And
I was just going to throw in there Bloody Mary starring the Mara sisters.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Like Rooney Mara and oh wow.
Yeah. So
Nice.
2007 Trick or Treat, a good one, and it features one of our favorite young actors, the kid who played Thurman Merman in Bad Santa.
Brett Kelly.
Yeah.
That's right, Thurman Merman. But I mean, this cast
it's
is
a great
killer.
cast.
Oh, and
Brian
it's Dylan
Cox.
Baker.
Dylan Baker, yeah.
Who and I talked to Michael Dougherty about this movie a few years ago, and he said that it was Dylan Baker's character in Happiness that inspired the character, who's actually an actually worse human being in this movie than he is in Happiness.
Which is hard to believe.
And then Brian Cox, as you mentioned, who's just awesome in this, and of course Anna Paquin.
Paquin.
Yeah.
And it's well written in the sense that it's kind of like Pulp Fiction in that there are 4 stories going on. They're interrelated, but you don't realize it until almost the end, and you see how all 4 of these kind of episodic things that are happening to different people, you say, well, how do these 2 girls, this is going to be your first night, and the audience has, their impression of what kind of first night they're talking about, and then they've got the guy who cuts off the head has got on his table, and they got the guy watching television. You say, well, how do and the lady who rips off the sheets in the front yard, you say, how does all of this fit together? And he makes it fit together. So it was really...
And it's also visually glorious. It is a beautiful movie to look at. And, we knew at this point that he could write, but, this was the first chance that the general masses got to see what a lovely job he does directing.
Yeah. Good movie.
And that whole like thing, like when even on the set of Superman Returns and everything, he would draw Sam crawling up and down around the scripts. And I'm pretty sure it prompted Brian to be like, okay, who is this? And they were, I think it was it might have been in Hawaii when they were on vacation or something. And he asked Mike, and Mike told him about Trick or Treat and all that. And Brian produced it and made it happen. So
nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's number 4, Trick or Treat. Moving on, now we're into the big classic territory. Number 3 on their fan favorite list from 1984, the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
No one knows where it came from or who it will visit next.
Nancy, there's something wrong with you. You're imagining things. Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
A new masterpiece in fantasy terror, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, when you can see that much blood and gore hiding under your bed, it's a thing that everybody knows. That if you put your feet over the edge of the bed and you don't have the sheet covering your feet, that the evildoers that live under your bed, the monsters, are going to come out and get you. So, hey, who could say no to that?
We just saw a documentary called The Nightmare, which is absolutely, utterly brilliant. And if you get a chance to see it, everybody should go see this documentary called The Nightmare. And it's about sleep paralysis, and it's so clear once I've this experience of this documentary that has got to be what inspired the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. There's no question about it. And both are so terrifying. And at the time when Nightmare on Elm Street came out, that's the thing, right? The film is hampered by a budget. Not all the acting is great. Johnny Depp is great, but Heather Langenkamp is a pretty talentless feature. But the concept that it's in your dreams. How much longer can you stay awake? Oh my! I was a kid. It was so terrifying, this idea. Right. And then the worst thing that can happen after you watch a scary movie, always, of course, is you're going to dream about it. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm going to dream about this, and he'll kill me. It was brilliant. It was utterly brilliant.
Fritz is not going to like this story at all, so I'll keep it very brief. But I was house sitting for someone recently, and I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of a laughing, cackling witch outside of my bedroom door.
Ah!
And I was just like, well, I dreamed it probably, and then woke up and heard it. And I looked it up, cackling witch, and it's a thing that people experience. So I'm not really sure I'm going to watch The Nightmare yet.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Never heard of that one either.
Oh.
And
well, The Nightmare just came out. So it's by the guy who did Room 237 for The Shining.
I'm kind of curious to see it because I've had the sleep paralysis before.
Oh. It's actually playing right now at the Gateway, and it's absolutely genius. And I spend, as you might imagine, an enormous amount of time watching horror movies. It's like my very favorite thing to do. In my life, I've never almost turned one off. In my life, until this one. Mm-hmm. I just thought, no!
See, Fritz, I don't know that you watch that.
And the image for me from the original Nightmare on Elm Street was when he's walking down the street and his arms are real long.
Terrifying.
That's the image right there for me. Because I have not seen all of the sequels. How many are there? 20?
But there are 9.
He's ready with that answer. But that's the one when I just think of that entire series. That's that image of the long arms is just creepy.
Well, okay. I'm sorry. There are 8 plus one really bad one. That was a remake. That was a train wreck.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We all saw that one too. More Mara news. That was Rooney Mara as well.
It's great cast
She's
too.
everywhere.
Jackie Earle Haley.
Oh, Jackie Earle Haley. Oh my God.
Everything about that movie should have been great.
Wasn't good. But we're going to move on to a movie that is absolutely killer, no matter how you look at it. From 1979, the classic Alien.
Oh, God!
Oh, no. Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Yeah, in fact, that clip you just played is one of the Fritz segments in our Alien episode, to give you an idea of how the series works. So you're done with a scene from the film. It's about to go to commercial break, so the film will black out, and then we come in, and John Hurt's struggling on the table, and the chest burster pops out, and it has little Fritz glasses on. And Fritz is known for these iconic owl glasses, which I'm sure you'll see by Googling his name or remember. But it's so Fritz does the whole break as the chest burster, and then when he flies off the table, it's Fritz's voice going Shazam, and it's one of the funniest things that we've ever done because as it flies off the table, it's still wearing the glasses, and you see its mouth just Shazam.
Yeah, for those of you not familiar with the owl, they were trying to figure out how should the owl be presented as a character live on camera, and literally they did think of putting me in a San Diego chicken type of suit.
This was way back in the 10 TV version.
That's right. This is back in 74.
Yeah, and fortunately they dinged that because in those days, what they call the staff announcer also had to do commercials, and where a guy in an owl suit could sell hamburgers and lightweight funny stuff, you couldn't see. It would have been ridiculous for the Nite Owl to be standing next to a new Buick, or a refrigerator or something really high priced. And Elton John was real popular at the time, so our art director went to the nearest Revco drugstore, found a pair of glasses on the rack, took them off, added the horns, and that was it.
Which are Masonite, right? It's Masonite horns.
And then they put glass, he broke mirrors and glued them to the horns because we had a starburst filter on the camera. So when my head would turn, the starburst filter would catch these odd angle pieces of thing and shoot a blast of light into the camera. And the dopers loved it. They were getting a light show and a great movie at the same time. But I've always said if I lose the glasses, my career is over. They won't remember me, they'll remember the glasses.
It's great that you use that scene because I remember seeing the original Alien in the theater. I believe it was 79 or 80. And we didn't know that was coming, and when that thing popped out of there, holy crap. I mean, that's the reason why that scene is so iconic. So it's perfect that you use that. Well,
and Ridley also surprised the cast with the amount of blood that he shot at them. So those are all like the real... Like when they jump, that one shot of him getting sprayed in blood was just, he told him, you'll get sprayed with a little bit of blood, and it was like gallons.
but this was also another great combination of terrific science fiction and horror.
Yeah.
Which was...
it's almost very Psycho-esque with the pacing, too, because it's just this very slow build-up, and then when that moment happens, or it takes out John Hurt's character.
The suspense is just...
yeah. And then it just becomes a chase movie, which is incredible.
Well, as a lot of people pointed out, it's basically a haunted house movie in space. And it makes more sense than most haunted house movies because you actually can't leave. Like, there's where are they going to go? They can't possibly leave there, so you really are trapped. And, of course, Ripley is the greatest hero in action movies of all time.
She is. Agreed.
I was going to say that launches that. And at the time, she wasn't the main character in that movie. I mean, she ended up being, the last
girl.
Yeah, the best last girl. But in the subsequent sequels, she really upped her badassedness.
Yes. Yeah, she was. And, and it's too bad that the movie got sequel to death because the first two are just works of genius. They really are. As is the final film on this list.
Number one on the new Fritz fan favorite list, The Shining from 1980.
No charge, dear Mr. Torrance.
No charge?
Your money's no good here. Orders from the house.
Orders from the house.
Drink up, Mr. Torrance.
I'm the kind of man likes to know who's buying their drinks, Lloyd.
Yeah, that scene right there in The Shining, that is one of the coolest moments of our episode. Is we did quite a simple effect, but we took the head off of Lloyd, the bartender, and we replaced it with Fritz's head, keeping Lloyd's outfit. And so he's serving Jack Nicholson a drink, but even though Lloyd starts to walk toward Jack, we did a frame-by-frame sort of tracking and a rotoscope to I mean, it looks like Fritz in that outfit.
People ask me, where did you get that bartender's uniform?
Nice.
It really looks real.
Yeah.
And then the clip got you guys both nominated for Emmys last year. Is that right?
Yeah,
it
that
did.
was one of the ones that we submitted as a composite for the Emmy nomination. I should mention also that in that thing, I, as the bartender now, interact with the dialogue from Jack Nicholson. He'll say stuff, and I'll respond to it. When he calls me Lloyd, I tell him no. I'm confused. I'm Fritz. And so the interaction between the guy in the film and me is, again, unusual for local television or things like that.
Nice.
And the writer, we knew we wanted to do that effect with the interaction, but our writer on that episode was a guy named Vidas Barzdoukas, who wrote the current Captain Blood that's going on in Schiller Park play. But he wrote it, and one of the greatest parts of that little interaction between Jack and Fritz is, he calls Fritz Lloyd, and then Fritz explains that he gave Lloyd the night off, and that Fritz is movie host, and then Jack, of course, we cut to you were always the best of them, and you kind of get that little. Fun little thing.
Well, as I said, we've talked about this movie many times, but I'm curious, just from your perspective, what makes this such a classic movie for you guys?
Well, again, it's not obvious. It's you get the feeling of itchiness when they're there alone, but all of a sudden, when the two little girl twins show up, you begin to wonder what this happens, and you see Jack slowly going bonkers. It has a tremendous suspense because you're really not sure of where it's going to take you. And that sequence where Jack goes into the bathroom and the beautiful nude is in the bathtub. You talk about scenes that stay with you for a long time. When he goes to kiss her and what happens there.
Stays with you for two completely different reasons.
Yes, as well as the two guys in the hotel room and the one guy in the bear suit. That's right.
Yeah, that is one scene where until I watch it again, I seem to always forget about, and then it's like, oh yeah, that happened too.
Yeah.
So
there's a
furry party going on in the hotel,
and it really lent itself well to the kind of thing we do for Nite Owl. So it just had all those things going for it. Plus, it was just a scary, scary picture.
It is, and one that you can just keep seeing. I don't get tired of seeing. I mean, if I'm flipping channels and it's on some show, I'll leave it on.
Well, it's such a beautiful movie. Like
They say a great one to see in the theater. One, if you can see it on a big screen, you absolutely need to do that.
Anywhere you freeze a frame in that movie, and it's a painting. I mean, it's incredible.
Because Kubrick is a genius.
He is.
All right, that is number one, well deserved on the Fritz the Nite Owl top 5 fan favorite lists. And as we said, it's back. It's moved to the Gateway. Once again, your next events coming up. When are they? Where are they?
So the 4th Saturday of every month. The way it is set up is at 10 p.m. You can show up at the Gateway. You can meet Fritz in the lobby, buy merch, get stuff signed, take pictures. At 11 p.m., there's a pre-show leading up to the midnight episode. This pre-show is set up. Channel Z is the station I created to be like a fake 80s TV station. So when you show up at 11, it usually shows, I just have an hour of, as if you're tuned into the channel and Nite Owl hasn't started yet. So it's sort of just things going on, commercials still, just different, clips from Elvira in the 80s or whatever we do to put together like this mishmash of a fun TV station. And then, of course, at midnight is when the TV station takes over. You'll see upcoming Nite Owl episodes, and then it goes right into our new episode. And usually each month we reveal about the next 5 or 6 episodes, and then each month usually there's a new one we announce. And so this past month we announced a very amazing, kind of unbelievable one that we're allowed to do. We can't talk about it, but you can see the trailer if you come to Jurassic Park, or we set up a website for it. We are allowed to say, and that's force.fritzlives.com. And if you go there, that website will keep you updated on the status of that particular episode.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Well, as always, keep any comments coming about this episode, and also we need to know your votes, your choices for your most extreme, hard to watch, got to turn away scene for our Notorious episode. And any movie that you want. What's the toughest scene for you to watch? Let us know. We're at Mad Wolf on Twitter. That's MADDWOLF. What do we got next week?
We're going to talk about road trip horror next week. It's summertime. It's time for people going to take a vacation. We're going to talk about, reasons to stay home, I guess, basically. So if you have thoughts about that, let us know. You can also leave us a message on goldenspiralmedia.com. We get those as well, and we'd love to hear from you.
All right, the legendary Fritz the Nite Owl, Mike McGraner, Emmy nominated. Thank you guys so much. It has been such a treat.
Likewise, thank you.
Until next week.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf. This is the Fright Club podcast.
Hey, greetings, good groovers. Fritz the Nite Owl, your voice of the night, inviting you to stay frightful, my friends.
Yeah!